Hey everyone, sorry about that. I'm
Is
having a little bit of
traveling well?
challenges here. Can you all hear me?
Yes. First of all, I want to congratulate you on your historical win in Minnesota as the first woman and the first Asian American mayor for St. Paul. And I noticed that you were literally just sworn in when the ice surge happened, and it's so many chaos. And we definitely thank you for your leadership in speaking up for our community. Would you be able to spend like 10 minutes to provide update on what's happening to our community, how we can support you?
Yeah, no, thank you for the opportunity to be on with all of you. And thank you to APA Justice for hosting these meetings for us to gather and share important updates that contribute to how, that our just how, locally and nationally, like all of our work is tied and impacted together. And so, I just really, there's so much that has happened here. I think just as you mentioned, 3 days into my administration, Nicole
Mary is frozen. She's kind of traveling in between her work sessions. So let's give it a few
that
seconds.
are, can you
There
hear
we go.
me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
There, okay, sorry. When I travel and I go around our state, people ask me, and out of the state, people ask me, what is the one thing that I want everyone to know about what is happening in Minnesota? And I tell them that it is far worse than you see on the news. It is far worse than what you hear about what people are saying, is that we are watching case after case after case of residents, of citizens, of people who have all of their proper documentation being targeted, being forcibly removed out of their homes, having their constitutional rights violated. We have people who have been law-abiding residents for decades, and had been doing check-ins with the federal government for decades, and all of a sudden now they're being labeled as hardened criminals when these are people who have turned their lives around, might have been wrongfully convicted. I think wrongfully convicted because, as minors who should never have been charged as adults, or were told to take plea deals because their lawyers had no idea the integration, the how immigration laws and the conviction would interact. And so, they had bad advice from lawyers, and that these individuals have gone on to school, have gone on to have jobs and have families. And these are the individual we're moving. And just the images that ICE puts out there, not showing their own faces, but showing the face of the person that they've detained, and putting up descriptions that have nothing to do with this individual, that they are not hardened criminals, they are not national security threats. And so that is what has been happening on the ground here. And I think that it is important for us to, like Minnesota is a very unique state in which we have a large Southeast Asian population. And our newest immigrants are are the Karen community, and they are asylum seekers. And their paperwork of to be here is very different. We know that these ICE agents are undertrained, and they have no ability to actually look through the proper documentation to know that somebody is legally here and that somebody's going through an asylum process. So we've had in the Karen community many people getting taken out of their homes, sent to Texas, and then when their paperwork is validated, ICE just opens the door and lets them out and expects them to get home somehow. And so we've had to rely on networks across Texas, churches, places of worship to actually go and find our person and help them get back to Minnesota here. I mean, what we have been experiencing as a community is unheard of. And I think that maybe the last thing that I want to share is that there's been a lot of visibility since the shootings here. And I think that some of the incidents started picking up, I'd say right around maybe the end of November. But our Asian American community, our AAPI community, has been targeted since June. My very first meeting with ICE was when I was still at the state legislature as a state representative in April. And when I had conversations with them at that time, I remembered our community already telling us that they were being taken. And at that time, at a community hearing, one of our leaders, his brother is an American citizen, and he was taken and detained for 2 days. So, like, this was already happening to our communities months before the visibility that we are seeing now on the news. I was going in, and just, just to finish that thought, my conversations with ICE at the time, I asked them because they told us they were going after hardened criminals and people who were national security threat. And I remember specifically asking them at that time, well, did you get through everyone? Because it looks like you're just going after everyday citizens now and everyday residents. And so we were already having some contentious arguments with ICE agents at the time, but I think I was the only one in a room of people that was really feeling the heat increasing on our AAPI community. And so starting in June, I started going with family members who had individuals who were impacted to do their check-ins at our Whipple building, which is our federal building. And we started organizing with community groups because we knew that if more of us were going in for these check-ins, ICE was less likely to grab them. And so I wasn't going as a state representative at the time. I was going as a community member to show up for other community members. And so we were already going through protocols and procedures and how to protect someone if they should get taken, who they have to call, and having lawyers in place and preparing their families for the potential that they were going to get taken. And so this has been happening all summer long, and we were seeing that the Hmong community, specifically in Southeast Asian community, were being targeted. There were a couple of weekends where there were just people couldn't leave their homes because they knew that our communities were getting targeted. So I say this because I think it is so important for us to remember that we are constantly hyper invisible. That when we were the targets, this was not on anybody's radar. Nobody was organizing food drives and delivery pickups and like protecting our communities. Nobody was doing that because it was just targeting the Asian American communities. And when people were going out, and once the heat started increasing on our communities here and the temperature started rising, I mean, specifically, they were going door to door asking who the Asian neighbors were and where they lived. And like those types of things that are happening, that we get so little visibility for the threat to our communities. So I just wanted to make sure that we all sort of understood and were centered in the fact of like our community has been targeted. The AAPI community has been targeted sooner. And this started ramping up for us earlier, way earlier in the year already. And it wasn't until it was happening to other communities and it was white people that were getting shot that there finally was the focus that was put on what was happening in our city and our state. So I know I've said a lot. I wanted to also share, maybe just wrap it up by saying that, on a front of what we've been doing as a city, our city council passed 3 ordinances that I signed into our statutes stating that ICE can't organize in our city properties. They cannot cover their face, and they have to have identifying badges so that we know who they are. We find a lot of confusion with our local police officers, and so we wanted to make sure that people knew that it was not our local officers that were enforcing federal immigration laws. And then we also have been organizing to help with our businesses and our small businesses because they're seeing businesses down 60 to 70%. So we've had private businesses come in and create a pool of funds that we could allocate out to our small businesses. We've also supported a number of lawsuits. And then, I mean, I've been subpoenaed by the federal government, and we're in ongoing litigation with them around some of these issues. And I would say that the last thing we were doing is also organizing with our community groups to figure out better responses when it comes to large gatherings and protests. How do we make sure that we keep our residents safe and people observing their constitutional rights in their doing their observing that they are protected in this process? So there's been a lot of work. There's so much more than this that we've been doing, but I just wanted to make sure to kind of keep it high level so that if anybody has questions, please feel free to ask. And my apologies for whipping through it kind of fast because I'm at my next event and I think I only have a few more minutes left. So I just wanted to make sure that you all kind of got a landscape of what's been happening here in St. Paul and in Minnesota.
Thank you so much, Mayor Her, and I salute to you and so many of your community leaders for taking us so much and helping our community. I also heard about similar things, and Jeremy and I, we kind of help distribute some of the yellow whistles. As you can see my background, yellow whistles is the symbol for APA Justice and so many other groups. So thank you so much for your hard work there. Definitely, our community has been uh, targeted for a long while, and definitely there's a lot of work to be done. And let us know if there's anything we can do to support you.
Thank you. And I skipped over one thing. I think it's important maybe for other states that we know that they're just shifting their efforts right into other places, and they haven't left Minnesota. But I will say that one thing that we did here while I was transitioning from being a legislator into being a mayor is that we actually work with our governor and our attorney general to have more clemency hearings because, we try to get a post-conviction relief bill here. I carried that for a number of years to have our new immigrant communities have their cases relooked at so that they could try to address, the convictions that they had. And we weren't able to get that passed. But what we were able to do this past year was to work with our governor and our attorney general to have more clemency hearings and to have more clemency reviews. So we went from them meeting 4 times a year and having one clemency hearing a year to having I can't. We went to, I think it was 4 clemency hearings a year, and I think it was 8 total of like the reviewing of the paperwork, and so in the cases, and so we've had hundreds upon hundreds of people get pardoned, and those people, I know that this is all happens behind the scenes, and no one knows the real impact of this, but like for us, those families that were able to get pardons, it meant the world to them, and they were now, I could have some relief from what was happening here. So as you are all thinking about next steps for yourselves, look at your clemency process and look to see if there are things that you can do to have more of those hearings.
So great idea. Definitely, yeah, that can help our community quite a bit. Definitely, we need to think about how we leverage that. Thank you again, Mayor Her.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you. I saw Congresswoman May is on, and you can